What you're looking at on screen is actually an overview of how much money our agency has spent on ads in the last 30 days. If you can't see that, it's over $2.2 million. So when it comes to media buying, I want you to know that I have tried every single possible way to click buttons and make more money for the brands that we work with, as well as for the brands that we consult. Whenever it comes to buttons that you can click to actually make you more money, there are very few inside of Facebook as of 2025. The glory days of being able to magically make more money by clicking one button on Facebook unfortunately aren't here. But there are still a few that if you click them the right way and you structure them the right way, you can actually turn your ad account into a much more profitable and higher spending machine for your e-commerce brand. And in this week's video, I'm going to walk through absolutely everything when it comes to how to structure your ad account, how to properly creative test, how to scale, what attribution settings you need to use, and absolutely everything that I can possibly think of, and literally everything that I know about how to spend millions of dollars for your brand inside of Facebook the best possible way right now. Now, before I move further into this video, I need to make it clear, even if this means half of you click off, there is no ad account structure that will save your bad ads. If your offer sucks, your ads suck, and your landing pages are not good, this structure will not save you. However, if after implementing everything that I'm going to talk about in this week's video, you still are not able to scale further, then it's your sign that it is not your structure that is the problem. It is those three things that I just mentioned. So as much as I'm excited for you to see everything about how to structure meta ads the right way, at least if you ask me, that if you really want the most out of this structure, you need to put intent and focus into the things that actually matter. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into the video. Now, first things first, I'm going to be building this in a blank random ad account. So again, I do have ad accounts that I will likely pull up to show you the results as we make it through this video, but I'm going to be building this from scratch to help you guys understand how to set these up properly. Now, the thing that I want to clarify right away, and I have to go full screen for this, is that do not turn off all of your campaigns after watching this video to set up your campaigns and do everything that I show you in this video. If you decide to do that and your performance tanks, that is 100% your fault, okay? Do not turn off. We have one golden rule at the agency, and that rule is if something is working, just leave it on, okay? There is no point in turning something off that is making you money. So if you have 100 campaigns or 1,000 campaigns and a whole bunch of crazy stuff all over the place, if it's working, just leave it on. And what I would encourage you to do is to set these campaigns and follow what I mentioned in this video as addition to whatever you have going on, because I do not want you to go into your ad account and turn off all your campaigns, tank your ad spend and tank your performance and say, well, this ad strategy didn't work. Well, it's not supposed to replace everything overnight. Okay. This is a gradual process to get your account structured the right way, but I just want to make that clear before we actually get into this. Before we even talk about getting everything set up, the first thing that you actually need to set up is your columns. You need to understand that your columns are what communicate data to you. So if you do not have your column set up and you do not have these custom metrics that I'm about to explain to you, you need to get them set up because they are very, very important for you to actually be able to look at the data in your account and actually get more from the data that Facebook is communicating to you. So if you want our exact columns, what you're going to do is just take a screenshot of this or pause the video and you can see the exact columns that we use. Things like campaign name, ad set name, attribution setting, budget, and we have some custom metrics down here as well, like conversion rate or hook rate and hold rate. And some of these you guys might be familiar with, but I want you to basically just pause the video. You can see these are the columns that we use. And again, if you want to find them, for example, you just search them up here, click CPM, and then you can click save. Now, I'm not going to explain what every single one of these mean, but what I will do is show you the custom metrics. So the custom metrics that we actually make for our brands are very simple. Okay. So the first one is going to be CVR. So if we actually look down here, you can see we have CVR, and what CVR is very simply purchases divided by landing page views. You could also do purchases divided by link clicks, but if you've never made a custom metric in your life, you're just going to come in here and search up what it is that I showed you, which the first one is going to be purchases, and then you're going to do divided by, and then the next one here is again going to be landing page views. And then when you're naming this, again, you could call this purchase CVR, and you're going to change this into a percentage because obviously this is a percentage that you're looking at, and you can make make this access to, or basically give access to everybody. And then you're going to click create metric. Now I'm not going to do that because I already have the metric, but the other two metrics that we have are video hold. So video hold is very simple, through plays divided by impressions. And what this tells us is how many people watch 15 seconds of my video ad. And so through plays basically just means 15 seconds. And if your ad is shorter than 15 seconds, then you're simply just going to see how many people watch the entire thing. That's what video hold is. And then hook rate is a very common run. This is just 3-second video plays divided by impressions. And so from there, those are the custom metrics that we set up. We used to create a custom metric called AOV, but Facebook has since actually come up with their own. It's called average purchase conversion value. And again, I will show you where all of these things come into play. Now from there, another thing that is super important for you to have is the actual indication of what your audiences are, because this is a lot of the times when we see media buyers make the mistake where they will say this is a broad ad set that is for, let's just say, women who are 35 plus. Right? And that's what they will call their ad set. Now, if you don't have these columns added, which again, if you go into the customized columns here, you can see we have these additional columns here. We can see that we have gender as an indicator, we have audience as an indicator, and we have age as an indicator. And this is super important to have this here because this is the data that is actually being pulled from what you have selected. And so as you can see, my media buyer, or me in this instance, wrote broad ad set women 35 plus, but we can see because I have my column set up the right way, we're actually targeting both genders and it's 18 to 65. It's not 35 plus. So now we're able to easily catch mistakes. And this is going to be super common when we get into the excluded audiences and the included audiences, because we see so many times media buyers accidentally include audiences rather than exclude them. So it's very, very important that you have this here so you can see the data on the ad set level. And then again, from the ad side, there's no data here, but just know that seeing the metrics of conversion rate and average order value really help you understand where your ad is performing well. Same thing with hook rate and hold rate. This just gives you a better idea of how well your ads are hooking in your audience and how good of a job it's actually doing of keeping them watching that video. And we also like video average play time because this just gives us a rough estimate of where people are stopping and where we likely need to fix the video or just before that in order to give them a reason to keep watching. So that is all of the columns that we have. And again, I know we haven't even gotten into the structure yet. There's going to be a lot to cover in this video, but again, your data is your truth. So it is very important that you have things structured and set up the right way. Now, the next thing that you need to do, unlike me in this example, is you need to name your campaigns, you need to name your ad sets, and most importantly, you need to name your ads, because as you saw over here in my reporting section, what's really cool about this is our agency actually has the ability to come through here and start to filter specific things by their name. So if you're not actually putting time and attention into naming your ads properly and including variables like this is a video, or this is an iteration, or this is an ideation, or even things as granular like we do based off of editors, or based off of, if you're a really big brand, specific agencies or in-house teams that you're working with. And it's so valuable to actually take the time to name your ad sets. So again, you have clarity and you can be organized in the account. Lucky for you, if you are watching this video, I will actually attach a naming scheme that we use down below. It's a little bit complex, so you can feel free to simplify it. But if you just want to copy the naming scheme that we have used before, I will give that to you guys, and you guys are more than welcome to take that and install that into your business, because you just need to make sure that you have some kind of naming scheme rather than none at all. You have no idea how many times I do audits on brands where they just have things like new sales ad and new sales ad copy, and they have no idea what's going on. They can't pull reports properly. And again, your data is your truth. So it is so important to make sure that you know what is going on. So bare minimum, make sure you name your ads, and ideally you name everything and you stay organized. So that way you don't have to click into everything. And again, you can always double check by having specific columns set up like this, where you can see your exclusions, inclusions, and all of that kind of stuff. Now, this is great and all, but let's talk about the juicy stuff, which is actually going to be the structure. Okay. The structure that we are going to be setting up is going to be the 3-2-2-2 structure. Now, you've probably heard of the 322 before, which was made famous by Charlie Tichenor, and he is kind of like the godfather of that. And we have a lot of respect for Charlie, but we've kind of implemented a little bit of our own spice onto this by adding an additional 2 at the end, which also includes testing specific landing pages. Now, if you are a brand that is spending less than $1,000 per day, you should honestly never have more than 1 campaign, maybe max 2. And the reason for that is because you need all of your budget as consolidated as possible. Okay. You need as much spend going into your ads as you can get, because as soon as you start to spread your spend super thin, it just makes it extremely hard for Meta to optimize. So the only 2 campaigns you should ever have are the 3222 campaign that I'm about to show you how to set up, as well as a potential ASC campaign. With that said, what we're going to do here is we're going to set up our campaign. So you're going to create a new campaign, and I'll actually do this one from scratch with you. And what you're going to do is you're going to obviously select sales. Once you select sales, you're going to click continue. And here you're just going to select manual sales campaign. For now, we will come back to the Advantage Plus shopping. We're going to click continue. And now again, you're going to name things properly. And just as a small thing, templates are also awesome. You can create your own templates inside of Meta if you want. And we're going to call this our acquisition campaign. And that's a word that I always spell wrong, but we're going to call this acquisition, where it's going to be a US CBO, kind of alluding there. And this is usually what most of our campaigns look like. And inside of here, again, buying type is just going to be auction. Okay. The campaign objective is sales. The campaign spending limit is just going to be none. We are not going to run catalog ads. We are going to run Advantage campaign budget. With that said, if you are a brand that is multi-SKU, we can talk about catalog ads after. There's going to be a little mini Q&A section that I'm going to get to for any common questions or most frequently asked questions that we get. But the most important thing here is we are going to turn on CBO. Now, for those of you that don't like CBO or think ABO is better, I'm going to try to give you an example that will hopefully hit home and help you shift your perspective on why we usually do everything in CBO rather than ABO. Number one, for those of you that are super stuck with making sure that your ads get spent, you can actually run minimum budgets inside of CBO campaigns. So it basically gives you the best of both worlds. If you have a larger budget of say $5,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 a day, you can set minimum budgets on each and every single creative, and then get the added benefit of CBO with whatever excess spend that you have. It will just go towards your top ads. So if you're still ride or die for ABO because you're able to force spend, there's no point. You can just run CBO with minimum budget, which is something that we are going to discuss. And the second reason, which should hopefully make a lot of sense, is because Meta has invested billions of dollars at this point building an AI algorithm. And what this algorithm does is it analyzes ads every single day and knows and has a pretty good idea of what ads are going to perform in the auction and what ads are not. And so this is why they came out with this thing called Advantage Plus budget optimization, or Advantage campaign budget. And what it's doing is it's leveraging its AI and its algorithm to basically analyze your ads and figure out which ones are actually going to perform. And now I know somebody's like, thanks for explaining the obvious. And I know I just need to make sure that we're on the same page. But more importantly, you need to understand that this algorithm performs a lot like your favorite TikTok algorithm or the Instagram algorithm, where you get served things that you like, right? Just like how you loaded up a YouTube video and now you're watching this video because you're interested in e-commerce, right? YouTube has an algorithm that understands you, all right? And just like how an organic algorithm will recommend videos to you, for example, have videos that go viral, they go viral because they are good. And the platform is pushing it organically because it is good. It's the exact same thing inside of Facebook with its ad algorithm. You don't need to force spend on 99% of your ads because Meta has an algorithm that knows what's going to be good. Okay. So just like how when you post an organic video, if it completely flops, it was probably just a bad video. And then on the other side, if you post a video organically and it goes viral and it gets a ton of views, it was probably a pretty good video, right? Now, for some reason, us marketers think we're smarter than the machine. And we think that because Meta is not spending on our ads, AKA in the organic version, it's not going viral, we think Facebook is wrong and that we're smarter and that it needs to spend on that ad. Meanwhile, every time we do that, or majority of the time that we do that, it just actually doesn't perform. Now, the thing that happens to so many people is the odd time you will actually see an ad start to get some decent performance on ABO when you force budget to it. But the truth is it rarely ever scales your account. It rarely ever goes viral. And again, the example example of the organic algorithm. And that's the problem. We are leveraging Facebook to be able to scale. So I don't really care if an ad gets 2 purchases a day when I have ads that are getting me 200 a day that Meta is spending all of my budget on. So hopefully that example, I know it was maybe a little bit hard to follow, but the example of the organic algorithm pushing videos that go viral is the exact same as Meta putting spend on your best videos because it has the same algorithm. It knows what's good and it's going to push it. And so there's no need to really waste a ton of budget on testing your creatives just because you think they're good. And I promise that is the end of the CBO ABO rant. If you still want to test ABO after this, be my guest. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I'm just explaining from my side of things and trying to help you understand the actual facts around why Meta developed this and why it's actually encouraged for you to use it. A lot of the times our egos just get in the way, and that's why we default to forcing spend. But at the end of it all, hopefully that makes sense. Now that we got over the big ABO question, we can get into the rest of the setup, which is going to be setting a daily budget. So set the daily budget to whatever you are comfortable with. I'm just going to throw this at $200 per day. Now, this is something that I do want to call out as well, because Meta has actually moved to a weekly budget, similar to how Google functions, rather than a daily budget. So that's why some of you guys will set a budget of $200 per day. And sometimes it spends more than that. As you can see here, it says it may spend up to $350. And that's because Meta is now trying to spot the days that are really good for performance and just have more wiggle room to spend more on those days. So make sure you keep an eye on this, because sometimes Meta has had some weird overspending things happening as they've started to roll this out. But just so you are clear on what this actually means, Meta will not always spend $200 per day, but by the end of the week, it will likely stay within the $1,400 budget. Now, when it comes to campaign bid strategy, I know this is another massive topic of bid caps or cost per results or ROAS goals. And I'll be 100% honest with you. We are simply just running highest volume or value. Now, this is actually something new that Meta came out with, where it used to be go for highest volume or go for highest value, and they've kind of merged the two together. But the most important thing here is you need to understand what this is telling the machine. This is telling the machine that we want it to go and get the highest volume of purchases or the highest value of purchases every single day. Now, there are a lot of bid cap and cost cap warriors that love to talk about their cost caps and love to talk about their bid caps. And you know what? I will give them the ability to go and rave about them. I don't really care about the people that run bid caps or cost caps. They can do that if they please. The biggest thing that I want to clarify is that cost caps and bid caps are not going to save your bad ads. Again, media buying is simply supporting you. It's not driving the performance, it's supporting the performance. So many people think it's because their cost cap wasn't set properly or their bid cap wasn't set properly, and that's why they haven't been able to scale. No, it's just because your ads aren't that good or your offer isn't that good. That's why they're not scaling. And because we run in CBO and we do not waste spend on bad ads, we a lot of the times don't really need cost caps or bid caps to test our creatives or run our campaigns, because we just let the algorithm do its thing. And so if you want to run cost caps and you want to run bid caps, you totally can, but we honestly don't. And we have honestly tested them. We've tried these crazy inflated budget strategies. We've tried doing all of these different cost caps and bid caps. And it's just, honestly, it's just a waste of time. I'd rather see you spend an entire day making better ads than spend an entire day playing with bids and cost caps. If you were to ask me who's going to win, bid cap or cost cap keyboard warrior, or a marketer that just spends the entire day making great ads, the marketer is going to win 100 times out of 100, because again, Facebook is just a tool for marketing, right? So if you have great marketing, it doesn't matter what you optimize the machine with, you're going to perform well. Now, again, we're going to continue through this, but those two big things between ABO and CBO and cost caps, bid caps, or highest volume, and always get people all fired up. But at the end of the day, it's not what makes or breaks your account. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. And you can go back to focusing on creatives, offers, and landing pages, because those are what's actually going to scale your account and ideally get you to where you want to go, not really the cost caps. Okay. So now that we're on highest volume or value, and I've probably lost half of the audience because I'm not talking about some crazy bid cap strategy, we're now going to jump into the final thing, which is the audience segment reporting. Now, this is actually important for you to do. What this basically is a way to communicate with Meta who is an engaged audience and who is an existing audience. Now, what we actually do is we simply just give Meta our existing customers. Now, the way that you do that, you're just going to go over into your account and you're going to click into audiences. And once you click into audiences, you're going to create a custom audience. And now there's two types of custom audiences I would highly recommend making. The first one is website. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go to website, and you're basically just going to follow the steps of how to create an audience of 180-day purchasers. So it's actually very simple to do. I don't have any data on this account because it's just a test account, but what you want to do is create an audience of 180-day purchasers. And again, it's really not that hard at all. If you need extra help, you can just search it after you're done watching this video. But the other thing that you need to do is you also need to upload your customer list. So same thing, just go into Shopify or go into Klaviyo, download your custom audience, and then upload it into Facebook. And again, make sure that you name it. And by doing that, you're going to actually give the data to Facebook to see who is an existing customer. And this is actually really helpful for the optimization, especially for brands who are bigger, to make sure that Meta knows who your existing customers are, because when you're trying to do prospecting, it's super important that you are focused on prospecting and not just going after existing customers. Okay. So that is the audience segment reporting. If you have more information or questions on this, you can let me know in the comments below, but it is important to make sure you define your existing customers. Now, making it down into the ad set level, this is where all of the magic happens. So when it comes to ad sets specifically, we actually run 3 types of ad sets. The first ad set is going to be called a champions ad set. Okay. And what this champion ad set is simply an ad set where we have all of our best ads. So what you're going to do here is you're going to basically put all of your best ads together, and you're simply just going to use an existing post, and you're going to grab the post ID and put it inside of here, and do that for your top 3 to 5 ads. Now, if you have no idea how to get a post ID, there's actually a video on my channel that shows you exactly how to do it. So you can go and check out that video after this as well, and it will show you how to find a post ID. But what you're going to do is, again, put your top 3 to 5 ads inside of this champions ad set, and this is just going to stay active the entire time. Okay. And if you don't have any winning ads, then that's fine. You don't need a champions ad set. You can just leave this until you actually start to find winning ads. But basically what this ad set is going to be is a massive ad set just filled with all of your top performing and winning ads, which we will define and we will help you understand as part of this video. So make sure you strap in and keep on watching to the end. And what you're going to do is you're going to set this up for maximum number of conversions. You're going to make sure you select your data set. Of course, you are only ever going to select purchases. You're never going to set up anything other than purchases. You don't need to worry about a cost per result goal. You don't need to worry about these value rules. And now when it comes to the attribution setting, this is something new that we've seen with Meta, and we currently are testing the incremental attribution. With that said, we still haven't seen it really beat our standard attribution models. So once we have more information on that, I will provide an update. But as of right now, we're still just running standard attribution. And now another big topic is talking about the actual attribution that you should be running in. Now, when it comes to attribution inside of Meta, there are basically 3 now types of attributions that you can select. And just so you know, the attribution does 2 things for your business. The first thing that it does is it actually tells Meta how to report data. So if you tell Meta, hey, show me anybody who clicked an ad and purchased within 7 days, we'll get a purchase reported into Meta for you to see. Okay. Second thing that it does is that's also how Meta learns who to go after. So it's going to optimize basically for people who are going to purchase within a 7-day window. Okay. And so this is where another bit of a topic comes up, because as you can see here, there is 2 different attribution options here for click-through. It's 1-day click or 7-day click. There are some brands that we have seen run 1-day click, but I would not suggest running 1-day click unless you are spending above $20,000 or $30,000 a day on ads, because there's just really not a point in doing so. And even then, we still recommend for most brands just to run 7-day click to get data into the account and just make sure that you're getting the best data for Meta and giving it a chance to actually find people who maybe won't purchase right away, but will purchase over that 7-day window. Now, a bit of a newer attribution model that Meta has implemented is engaged video view. And as you can see here, what engaged view means is when someone views your ad and takes action within 1 day. For images, engaged views are counted when an image is visible at least 50% of the screen for 2 seconds. For videos, engaged views are counted when a video is played for at least 10 seconds or for 97% of its total length, if it's shorter than 10 seconds. We'll learn from your engaged view conversions and show your ads to people likely to engage view within the same period. Engaged view is available for all placements except Facebook in-stream video ads, which cannot be skipped. And so this is something new that Meta has implemented due to some of the flaws that typical view-through attribution has. And for about 90% of the brands that we work with right now, we actually don't run any view-through attribution. So what we would actually run for our brands is just 7-day click only. So we would not select any view-through attribution. But with this new engaged view, we have been testing this because what this is a bit of a better view-through attribution attribution, because what happens a lot with standard view through attribution, if you were at more scale, okay? So most of the brands that we work with are spending around 6 figures or more per month on Meta. And so what happens here is Meta takes low hanging fruit, okay? And especially for some of our brands that have supplements or have high repeat customer purchases, Meta is just going to, again, try to get, as we go back into the campaign level, the highest volume of purchases at the lowest cost for your business. And so if it has the ability to get attribution or to get you a high volume of purchases from people who just view your video or view your ad, a lot of the times it's going to do that. Okay. We have seen at times, and if you want more information on this, I again actually have another video on my channel that talks about how to understand and how to pick attribution for your business. But we have seen at times Meta reporting like 7 to 10x return on ad spend. But when you actually break down the attribution, you can see it's actually only like a 2 to 3x return on ad spend, which is still really good. But that's because a lot of it is view through. So if you are a brand that is just starting out spending less than $1,000 a day and you do not have, a 20 or 30% returning customer rate, you're probably fine to just run a standard 7-day, 1 engaged, 1 view, and you're likely going to be fine. With that said, as you start scaling and once you get to bigger audiences and you do have people coming back and purchasing over and over again, I would highly recommend removing the view through attribution. And if you want to test engaged view, you can keep it on. But for a lot of our brands, we're also just removing this as well, because what we're looking for is just people who are actually clicking the ads, because we found that that's been a lot more incremental to the overall store. Not to get confused with this new incremental attribution. Again, we are still testing this and haven't really seen much of a difference from it. But the point is people who click the ads and go and purchase usually tell us that ads are a little bit more effective rather than just people who are stopping to look at a random video and then scroll on with their day, or again, existing customers getting served ads because Facebook knows that they're hot and wants to get purchases from them. So we usually recommend that if you're spending, 6 figures a month on Meta and you have a decent high returning customer rate, again, above 15 or 20%, you can probably just run 7-day click. However, if you are just starting out, you can just leave the default as 1-day engaged and 1-day view. Now, dynamic creative for some reason still shows for me. We love our dynamic creative, but I'm going to show you how we set up ads without dynamic creative, because I know a lot of you don't have that anymore. When it comes to budget and schedule, again, we're just going to leave this as is. But the only thing that I would recommend is that if you are launching new campaigns, make sure you always schedule them to go live the next day at midnight, because when you do things this way, it avoids any kind of overspending. Because as you can see, before I changed it, it said May 20th at around 4 p.m. If I was to launch the campaign and then it was to actually finally get published and go live around 6 or 7 p.m., it would try to rush and spend $200 before midnight. So it would just accelerate my budget and it would spend $200 and likely get really crappy results. We've seen this happen a ton. And so what we recommend people to do is just schedule your new campaigns or anything that's going to spend a new budget to go live the next day at midnight to avoid any kind of overspending. But from there, that's the only thing you need to know about budget and schedule. Now, when it comes to audience controls, this is another really, really big thing that people get all caught up on. And they wonder if lookalike audience still works or interest audience still work. And at the end of the day, I just want to clarify with everybody that Facebook is going towards broad. And the reason why it's going towards broad is because it's not actually broad. What it actually is unrestricted. Okay. That's the kind of frame that I use. And big shout out to Nick Therio actually for that. I kind of stole that from him. He mentioned it a while back. And I just think it's the best mindset to have on broad is you're not restricting yourself. You're just letting Facebook do its thing. And so my point is that you don't need to select any kind of interest audience. Okay. And so what's really cool about this is now all we do is we just set our location, which if you want to advertise in Canada or if you want to advertise in the United States, which most of you probably will, you just set that as your location. Now, when it comes to the age, we honestly just leave this as is as well. We'll start to see where Facebook is pushing budget, but at the end of the day, we don't touch this. Sometimes we will push it a little bit higher. We have some brands that we run, 25 plus or 35 plus, depending on the product. But at the end of the day, we usually just leave this at a minimum age as well. And then when it comes to exclusions, we do actually add 2 types of exclusions. The first exclusion that we'll add is actually a customer list. So again, that same customer list that you should have updated into your custom audience, you're going to now apply that inside of here. And to show you what that looks like, this is actually what it looks like inside of here. So you can see we have purchase 180 day. We also sometimes layer that with a purchase 30 day. And then we have our all purchaser list from Klaviyo. And you'll notice for this brand specifically, we actually have have done 30 to 65 plus, and we are targeting men only. So depending on your avatar, you can change the age and you can change the gender, but it's not a big deal. And as you can see here, we don't actually have any Advantage Plus detailed targeting, which is going to bring me back to this here, because as you can see, Meta has changed this to Advantage Plus audience. And so inside of here, you can now click into this and you can see the different types of detailed targeting. But I want you to understand what Meta is telling you with this is saying, we may deliver ads beyond your audience for eligible ad objectives if it's likely to improve performance. That's Meta basically telling you that we don't care who you choose as an interest or whatever it is. We're just going to target whoever we want. And for those of you that remember, there actually used to be a button inside of Meta that said, do you want to leave detailed targeting on or do you want to turn it off? Where we had the option to say, no, you have to target these people. But now Meta has just removed that because it knows that it's smarter. And again, Meta wants you to spend as much money as possible on their platform. And so at the end of the day, you just need to understand that Meta is pushing broad. And even with the ASCs that we're going to get into, it's just all broad. Okay. There's absolutely no point to select interest because it's just going to go outside of it anyways. Now, I know I get a lot of questions about this as well of, are you using Advantage Plus audience? Because as you can see here in our account, it says, hey, you could get 7.2% lower costs. Now we have actually split tested this. And again, we just haven't really noticed a big difference. Now, from a statistical significance standpoint, I want you to understand that this 7.2% that Meta is telling you is based off of so much data and so much money that it actually will likely improve your performance. But again, it's not going to save your performance. And it's also telling you that you could get 7.2% lower cost per result. So if you do want to turn this on, you totally can. Honestly, in our accounts, we have this on in some and off in others. Again, we have split tested this and we just didn't really notice much of a significant difference. So if you want to turn it on, feel free. If you want to leave it off, it doesn't really matter, at least yet. And again, we're going to talk about the advantage shopping campaign stuff as well. But overall, just know that detailed targeting is another one that people are really big on, and it just doesn't matter. So the only thing that matters is making sure that you have your demos dialed in the right way. And if you are going to exclude custom audiences, that you put them there. Now for placements, we leave this fully automatic. We don't touch this at all. So just let this be. I don't even know if people still touch placements anymore. I don't think they do. But yeah, you don't have to worry about this at all. And that is going to be the first type of ad set that we run. Now, the second type of ad set that we run is going to actually be called our creative testing ad set. So when we get inside of here, we're just going to recall this creative test ad set number 1. And so what this ad set is going to be is actually the ad set where we launch our new ads. And so what we're going to do is we're going to call this new ad number 1. And again, you should be naming this properly. And this is where we basically launch batches of ads. Okay. And so every single time we have a new batch of ads, we will actually launch a new ad set. Okay. Now, before I lose you on the third ad set, we will come back and talk about this, but the creative testing ad set is the most important ad set. And so I'm going to go through and explain on the ad level now how we actually do this, and then come back because it will kind of go nicely into how we test our third type of ad set in this campaign. But just know this creative testing ad set is going to be the most common ad set that you use. And so what goes inside of this creative testing ad set? Well, the first thing that I need to make clear is that you want to make sure that everything that you just set up in your champions ad set is the exact same as this creative testing ad set, because when we are testing creatives, we need to make sure that the variables at the ad set level are kept the same. So don't go in here and change the attribution level or add different things to this. Okay. We need to make sure that this has the same control as the champions ad set, because if we start changing this, and for example, something that I've seen a lot of people do is they will exclude previous purchasers in their champions or winnings ad set, but then in their new creative testing ad set, they actually won't, or vice versa. We see a lot of big brands have a champions ad set that has no exclusions, and then in their creative testing ad set, they add all these different exclusions. They add things like 30-day website visitor exclusions and add to cart exclusions and all of these crazy exclusions where, unless it's purchasers, I honestly am on the side of don't limit your creatives. Just let your creatives do their thing. Okay. The most important thing is make sure you keep them the same, but there is no point in restricting new ads from testing and going against people who have been to the website or added to cart, because you never know how Facebook is going to serve your ads. For those of you that are trying to comprehend what Facebook's doing, it is so advanced. We honestly can't comprehend it. It is so crazy what their system does that when you start restricting it and saying, don't target website visitors, don't target people who have added to cart, you're just limiting ads from actually being able to get purchases for you. So the only exclusion that I would recommend for brands to put on the champions ad set level, the creative test ad set level, and also the third ad set that we're going to talk about is the existing purchasers. Outside of that, there's no exclusions needed. Just exclude your previous purchasers and then let Facebook do its thing. Because the cool thing is we're actually going to be able to see specific metrics by using our columns to tell whether or not an ad set is doing more retargeting or whatever it may be. So now that I've had my rant about the variables staying the same, when it comes to the creative testing ad set, we actually call this a batch. So this would actually be called in our account creative batch number 1. And again, this is just going to be the ad set. And then inside of here, as we jump down to the ad level, we would begin to set up the 3-2-2-2 process. Just as a reminder, if you're enjoying this video and you feel like you're getting value, just click the subscribe button. I'm not even going to talk about anything else other than that. We are on the road to almost 10K subscribers, which is absolutely insane. So if you're getting value from these longer form, just raw videos, again, just hit the subscribe button and that's going to motivate me to keep pushing out videos for you guys. But I'll leave it there, a little shameless plug, but let's get back to the creative testing. So now we have finally made it to the ad level. And again, when it comes to the champions ad set, we're just using post IDs here. Okay. So nothing overly complex. Everything will take care of itself. But when we get to the ad level for creative testing, this is where everything starts to come into play. And so the first thing that we have here is our page in our Instagram account. So you're obviously going to make sure you set that up. And we're going to talk about identity and we're going to talk about the other type of campaigns that we run with whitelisting. So again, make sure you lock in because this is going to be a long one, but we are going to talk about that. So we have Facebook and Instagram. And then from here for the ad setup, rather than the existing post, you're going to go into create ad. And now something new that Meta has actually added is this branding, which says we can automatically source branding from URLs you've previously used. Previous ads information from your Facebook page and your Shopify account will match fonts and colors we find to the most relevant available options. You can edit or turn this off at any time. We haven't played with this too much. If you want to play with it, you can. You can go in and basically add branding and put your logo and put different fonts and colors and all that kind of stuff. We just haven't really played with this. This is more kind of the push that Meta is making for AI because again, they rebrand into Meta for a lot of AI purposes. But the point is it's just not quite there yet for us. So we're just not doing this at all. What we are doing is we are setting up ads. So here you can see we're going to create the ad. We're going to use a manual upload. And this is where so many of you have defaulted to flexible ads to build the 3-2-2 strategy. And I'm telling you, this is a terrible idea. And the reason why it's a terrible idea, at least if you ask me, is because you can't see the data and we need to see the data. We want to see which creatives specifically are performing. And to show you an example of this, I'm actually going to pull up a flexible ad and show you how you can't see the data. All right. So we are now in an account that has some flexible ads. And one of the biggest problems, you guys have maybe seen this video on my channel where I talk about the problems with flexible ads. It automatically puts things into a carousel, which is super annoying because as you can see, when we're testing creatives, which is actually the wrong way of testing creatives, we have a new updated creative testing video, which if you haven't seen, make sure after you watch this video, you go watch how to make ads that scale to 40K per day, because that will save you more than this strategy, if I'm 100% honest. But let's go ahead and jump back in. So as you can see here, it puts things into carousels. And then on top of that, the thing that sucks is that if you go to the breakdown tool and you go to image, you actually can't see which images got spent. And for the sake of this, I'm actually going to put spend on this so you can see these creatives over here had about $300 in spend. And I still have the image breakdown, but it's not showing me what one got the most amount of spend, which is kind of the whole reason why we used to run dynamic creative, is to be able to see which one did the best. But that is no longer a thing anymore. And so because of that, what we actually are doing now is we are just running single image or video. And then from there, we are actually going to duplicate the ads out. And so what you're going to do, if you don't know how to set up Facebook ads, is going to be single image or video. And then you're going to click here. Just make sure you check all the options. Leave this as is. You're going to enter your URL. So let's do easyamedia.com. And then from here, don't worry about a display link. It doesn't matter. Browser add-ons, don't care either. Add creative. We're going to now go ahead and click setup creative. We're going to, again, skip this branding thing. I just don't really know. Meta just loves to make things more annoying, but we're not going to worry about that. We're now going to go into the images. So let's just go ahead and choose this image here, which looks like a screenshot. So we're going to go ahead and click next. And then as you can see here, it's going to be original. And the whole reason why we actually run original is because we just want Meta to actually do its thing with the placements. We don't usually recommend auto cropping it here. We will just let Meta show the media how it should be shown. Now, with that said, said, when it comes to getting assets from your creative team, you need to make sure that you get them in the right formats. So what we actually do for videos is we actually make videos that are 9:16. And then what we do is we make sure that everything that needs to be seen on screen fits in a 4:5 format. Okay. Now, the other thing that we do is we also with images make them 9:16 and make sure everything fits in a 1:1 format. And so what's nice about that is that when they get shown on story, you can see the full thing. And then from there, once they actually, get served on the feed, they still fit and they still look good. Okay. Now, because of we're setting things up the manual way, you actually can upload a 1:1 version of your ad and a 9:16 version of your ad. We just found that the amount of time it takes our team to re-upload everything twice just to get another format, it's just not really worth it. And so what we do is we try to move a little bit faster by just doing the 9:16 and making sure everything fits in the 1:1 or 4:5 ratio. And then from there, we just upload that one ad set and it allows us to move really fast and it still looks good inside of stories as well as the feeds. Now from there, once you've selected your videos, you're going to click next. And then as for the text, this is where the first two comes in place. 3 stands for 3 types of creatives. But so far, if you are following, we've only uploaded 1. But what we're going to do here is we're going to add the 2 primary texts. So we're going to call this test number 1 and we're going to call this best test, or I would say best copy number 2. And this really should be the other way around. So let me just say best copy number 1, and I'm getting dominated by Facebook. And this is going to be test copy number 2. And so anytime we launch a new creative test, what we actually do is we use our previous best performing copy as long as it makes sense. So for example, if you have, I don't know, some kind of back device and you are selling the back pain device and you are making ads for the back pain device, then you can use the best copy for the back pain device. But if you also have another product on your store that is for, I don't know, foot pain, well, it probably doesn't make sense to put the best performing foot pain copy on your back pain ad. So just make sure you're aware of what you're doing. But the best copy will always go for this ad. And again, best copy for that specific product. And then from there, we're going to actually test one new copy with it. And so this still gives us exactly what we want to see, which is how is our best performing copy going to perform with this video? And then on top of that, what's some new copy that we can actually test to see how this does? And a lot of people don't think primary text actually matters. It actually does. And for the people that are actually involved, we sent them a winning ads deck that we put together. And we noticed that some really high spending ads actually had some insane primary copy that actually had a big impact on performance. And so I would highly, highly recommend that you test copy and take this seriously, especially on your image ads. Video ads, it still does play some kind of a role, but image ads specifically, I would definitely make sure you pay attention to the primary text. Now, when it comes to the headline, it's the exact same thing. So this is going to be best headline number 1. And then again, this is the second 2. So we've got 3, 2. This is the first 2. Second 2 is the headline. And then this is going to be test headline number 2. Okay. And so now that we have those 2 headlines there, we're going to ignore descriptions. We actually don't run descriptions. And then we're just going to go to shop now as the CTA. Okay. And now once we have that done, we're going to click next. And this is what's crazy. This is where AI is literally generating AI people. And apparently in their experiment campaigns with AI add-ons had an 11% lift in CTR and an 8% lift in conversion rate. And to be honest, I just do not look at this. I just say skip and continue because these images are not even close to what I'm trying to market. So I'm going to skip and continue. And then this is when the enhancements come in as well. And to be honest, we usually turn off most of these as well. Overlays, we don't care about. Visual touch-ups, we don't really care about. But music, we turn off. Text improvements, you can leave this on if you want. But again, we usually turn this off as well. And then ad site links, you can leave this on if you want. But again, we will turn this off more than likely. It's just really kind of annoying. There are other active enhancements, as you can see down here as well. So Meta has all these different enhancements. There are some people that just say leave them all on and let Meta cook. But if you ask me on the brand side, sometimes these 3D animations, they just look so stupid. And Meta is just sometimes split testing things with your creatives. And so we honestly just turn most of them off. Some of them will leave on, but for the most part, this is what we usually run with, which is just overlays and visual touch-ups. And that is it. So once you do that, you're going to click done. And now you should have your ad uploaded, which is great. And then you're going to go down here and you're going to see flexible media is enabled. Again, this is just letting Meta choose which format to crop it at. We're going to ignore these AI suggestions. We're going to have our primary copy, our headline copy, no description. We're going to have shop now, optimize text per person. This is again another thing that Meta is running, but it says because you've opted into standard enhancements, text you provide may appear in any location of your ad and may appear with any other text you have given it. And again, we're fine with that. If Meta just wants to cook on that, feel free. And then when it comes down to these info labels, deals or promotions or stuff like that, we don't usually run things through here. If I'm 100% honest, we just let that be. You can see here again, you can double check the Advantage Plus enhancements that you have and just make sure that everything looks good there. Event details, we don't worry about. Languages, we don't worry about. Tracking, we make sure this all looks good. And then from there, we actually have a specific UTM that we use, which is actually the one that we use for Triple Whale as well. And so these UTMs just send more data into your Shopify and then also help Triple Whale. So if you have a platform like Triple Whale, I'm sure you probably know what UTMs are, but if you don't know what UTMs are, I remember the first time I learned about them, I thought they would save my ad account. It's nothing crazy. You really don't need them, but it usually is best practice just to have UTMs in there to communicate more data to Shopify. And if you are on Triple Whale or you are thinking about getting on Triple Whale, you're going to need to have a UTM on it. So what I would recommend is I'll attach this UTM down below, but just put this UTM on all of your ads, because then when you actually scale up enough to get onto a platform like Triple Whale, you will already have the code or the UTM for your ads in place, and you won't actually have to reset all of your ads and apply all of the UTM. So it's just best practice to use them. And again, I will attach the one that we use down below, and you can just copy and paste it, throw it in your ad, and then you are good to go. All right. And now we have made it down to the bottom and we have one ad officially set up. Now the problem is we have 3 more visuals to put together. So we are going to duplicate this ad and we are going to change this to new ad number 2. Now, again, it is super important to make sure that you review everything, because Meta sometimes likes to change things. So make sure you double check everything and all looks good. And now what we're simply going to do is we are going to remove this media and we are now going to add the next version of our creative. And unfortunately, we have to go through this whole tedious process again, which really sucks. But let's just say the next visual that we have is this one. So we're going to go ahead and click next. We're going to leave the copy the exact same because we want to keep that the same. Make sure it says shop now. It's now saying analyzing AI ads. I don't want to do that. Now, as you can see, Meta actually turned on all of its visual enhancements again. So again, I have to come in here and turn this stuff off, which is super annoying, but we can go here as well and just confirm that everything got removed that I want removed. And then from there, click done. And now you have your second ad loaded in. Okay. And so now that we have our second ad loaded in, as you can guess, we need to do our third ad. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate this again. And now we are going to rename this as new ad number 3. And we are going to, not 23, number 3. And we are going to upload the final ad. So we're going to scroll back down, click delete. Again, go through this entire process, which is super annoying. Click done. And now we have our third and final ad put together. All right. So as you can see, we now have our 3 creatives. So we have creative number 1, creative number 2, and creative number 3 with our 2 primary text and our 2 headlines, which gives us a 3-2-2. But where's the other 2? Well, that is a great question. And we are now going to do that by simply duplicating all of these 3 ads, and you're going to duplicate them in the same ad set. So now we have 6 ads total. And the final thing that we are actually going to change for the third and final 2 is the URL. And so what you're going to do is you are going to scroll, and I can't seem to find it, until you find the website URL box. And this is where you are going to change the URL. And so for example, if I had a product page, or in this case, we actually are going to use our profit calculator, which is another link that we have on our store. We are going to send these exact same 3 ads to a new URL. And what this allows us to do is actually test landing pages with every single creative test that we run, which honestly, if you have hung around this long, like I said, like this is some sauce right here. And we recently cracked this at the agency, and it has been rushing it for our brands, because not only do we get to test volume of LPs, and it forces you to make sure that you're testing landing pages, it also tells you so much about how certain ads perform with certain pages. And we have learned so much about this with our actual CRO team that it's been blowing my mind. The best part about this as well is the third ad set that I'm going to get in and talk about actually allows you to scale with the exact same creatives that you have simply by testing a new landing page. So hopefully you're excited about that. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. But the point is this has been a breakthrough for us at the agency to get more out of every single landing page that we test and get more out of every single ad that we test as well. It also forces you to build more congruent customer journeys, which is very important when you're trying to scale brands like we are to millions and millions of dollars a month. Now, let's jump back into the account because it is super important that we go through and update every single ad, and more importantly, we update our naming scheme. Now, I didn't want to do that because it was going to give it away, but this could be called something simple as new ad number 3, and then we have LP home, which basically stands for this is the homepage LP. Now, I actually think I messed that up because this is our profit calculator. So I'm going to call this LP profit. And so it's always important to just make sure you have a specific name for your landing page so you know what is what. But this is perfect for brands that don't have a lot of budget or are trying to figure out what is the best LP to go to, because what you could do as a very, very simple test is, like I just said, have one going to the homepage, which would be LP home. And then you could have another ad going to, for example, your product page. Rather than a profit page, it could go to a product page. And so now you can actually test multiple pages with your creatives to see what a better customer journey is. Now, a very common thing that we'll see, for example, is listicle. So we will test some ads going to a listicle, and then we will test other ads going to an offer LP. So now we can see, how will this ad actually perform? Will it perform better going to an offer LP first, or will it perform better going to a listicle? And every single ad is different. But the best part about this is Facebook actually crawls your landing pages. And it crawls your landing pages because it has to. It has to make sure you don't have anything crazy on your landing page. So it actually has all of the data on your landing page, and it can actually analyze to figure out what is going to be the better page. Now, keep in mind, ads still are responsible for the majority of your performance, but the landing page is something that Meta analyzes, and it can actually start to push budget towards specific pages that it believes will do better. And as I mentioned, Meta has an algorithm that is super advanced, and so it knows what is going to be a better page. And I get really excited about this because you guys have no idea. Like, there would be brands that would spend months and months split testing pages with us, and now we can just figure out what their top page is within a matter of a couple of days because we're just testing more landing pages in order to figure out whether page A, that is an offer page, or the home page or a listicle, is going to perform better, because Meta will just spend more on it and the overall return on ad spend will just be better. Pretty cool. And so again, once you have this up, and I'm just going to go and clean up the names here so it's all aligned, you can see we now have 6 ads total that are inside of this one ad set. And now what's cool about this is we are getting not only a creative test done, but we're also getting some landing page testing done inside of this as well. Because say, for example, if this creative batch was something around case studies, I could send this to a case study page, and I can almost guarantee you that Meta would likely spend more on this creative with a congruent landing page than it would with one that's just completely evergreen and plain. And so this is how we are mass creative testing at scale, while also making sure that we are thinking through the entire customer journey. So that is the second ad set, plus how to set it all up. And from there, the third and final ad set that we will actually set up is something called a page testing ad set. So again, this ad set, although we are testing landing pages, is still focused on creatives. And so what we have over here as our third and final ad set is a page test ad set. Okay. And so what this ad set is again, it's going to have the same functionality here as our champions and as our creative testing batch, but we're going to actually duplicate all of our best ads. And rather than using a post ID, we're going to just use the duplicated version of the ad, and we are going to test specific landing pages with it. And so, for example, let's say that we ran this creative test and this was our new top spender. Okay. It was LP home. So what we would actually do is we would duplicate this ad, or we would just copy this ad, and then I would paste it inside of this ad set. So if you don't know how to do that, I just pressed Command C, Command V. So it just allows you to copy paste. And what I would do now is I have new ad LP home, which is kind of the best performing ad, let's say, that we have. And then let's say I have another best ad number 2, right? So that's best ad number 2. And then the other one that we have here, just for the sake of an example, we have best ad number 3. And so what we will do at times is we will come in and we will take our best 3 to 5 ads, and we are focused on testing just a page. And so now these are all of our top performing ads. We know these ads work. And what we're going to focus on here is testing a new LP. And so let's say I made a new landing page that was an advertorial. So we are going to put in LP advertorial, and let's just say this is advertorial number 1. Okay. And so what we're going to do, and let's just change this to best ad so it's clear. Let's just call this best ad number 1. We are now going to take this LP and we are going to test this on all of our best ads. And so as as you can see, we have best ad number 1 going to the advertorial number 1. We have best ad number 2 going to advertorial number 1. And we have best ad number 3 going to advertorial number 1. And this becomes similar to a creative batch ad set test. This is just a page batch test, or basically it's just one page because we're just testing the one page. And we're going to test 3 to 5 ads in here that are ideally our best ads, that are getting spend, are hitting KPI, or are just actually congruent. Because say, for example, we tested an image ad. So let's just say we had this image ad here and it had an insane cost per click. It was driving a ton of traffic to the store, but it wasn't really converting. So what we would sometimes do in that case is we would build a custom landing page. We would duplicate this ad into our page testing ad set. We would then come in here and of course change the URL. So let's just call this easymedia.com/adv. We can just call it that. And now we would come in and we would change all of the URLs here to the updated URLs. And I'm not sure why the URL is disconnected here. Well, I actually know why. It's because I'm using an existing post. So again, we need to create a new ad. And just for the sake of this example, there's no ad here. But again, you would change the URL. And then for this one, same kind of thing. You remove the post ID. So it's not a post ID. It's just going to be a brand new ad. And that's why duplicating an ad that isn't a post ID is going to be the smart thing to do. So if you have post IDs in here, you need to go back and find the original ad and duplicate that original ad in here. Otherwise, you have to set it up from scratch again, which is kind of annoying. But the main point is that you are going to have all of your best original ads going to the new LP. And now one of the biggest things that people say to us in Evolve about this strategy is like, well, you lose all the engagement. What happened to all my likes and all it does not matter. Okay. A better offer and a better landing page is going to have a higher impact than an actual engagement or comments on your ad. Okay. So it's not a big deal if you lose your engagement on your ad when you're testing the LP, because guess what? If the ad's really good and the LP is really good or even better, it's just going to become a new winner and then it'll get more engagement again. Okay. And so the point is that testing landing pages is going to have a bigger impact than your actual engagement on the ad itself. Now, something I want to mention as well is that we are not only just doing page tests in here, we are also doing offer tests, which for anybody doing less than $100,000 a month, and even then we work with brands that are doing millions of dollars a month, we are still testing offers. Now, we still call it a page test, but something that we do that's actually a little bit more strategic. And again, if you've hung around this long, I'm going to give you everything that I know. We will actually come in here and we will make new ads. So this would be an offer ad, as an example, going to a new offer page. And so this offer ad number 1 with LP offer, something we'll actually do inside of our campaign here that is a testing and scaling campaign that has been crushing for us. So we will develop a new offer. We will then put that offer with a new ad that we have created for that offer and test it inside of this same campaign. And now what you'll notice in this campaign is we have a few different things happening. We have our champions ad set, and I'm just going to delete this for the sake of confusion. We have our champions ad set, we have our creative testing batch ad set, and we have our offer testing ad set or page testing ad set. And we're testing all of this all in the same campaign. Okay. You'll notice it's just the same campaign. It's our acquisition campaign. And we're not only doing our scaling inside of here, but we're also doing our creative testing and we're also doing our page and offer testing. And the reason why we're doing that is because we just want Facebook to spend on whatever is going to get us the highest amount of performance. And the best part about running things this way is that if your new ads suck, okay, if they completely suck, or if your new LP is not that good, guess what? It's just not going to get spent. And so that way you don't have to waste your budget on testing ads that suck. Okay. You get the data from Facebook saying, hey, compared to the ones that I have, these are just not that good. So I'm not going to spend on them. And I'm just going to spend more on these ads because they have a better chance of getting us conversions than the new pieces of crap that you just uploaded into my campaign. And that's the thing that's sometimes really hard to swallow, is the fact that Meta just doesn't like your ads because they're bad. And for whatever reason, we associate new ads with better performance, but sometimes the new ads that we make are just not that good. And so Meta is just reminding us that. And it's very important that you remove your ego when you're doing this stuff, because Meta is going to humble you often. Now, with that said, inside of this campaign, there is an option to run minimum budgets. And I did mention this. So if you do want to run minimum budgets, you can, okay? And how do you do that? Well, you can go inside of here and click add set spending limits, and you're going to add this spending limit. And say, for example, your total budget is $200 per day. And say you want to dedicate $20 a day towards this new creative testing ad set, you 100% can. Do we do this? No, we don't. But can you do it? If it makes you feel happy that your ads got spent, go ahead. I literally don't care. But the truth is we've just found that brands who run minimum budgets oftentimes just waste money on testing new creatives when you don't have to. So we just let Meta cook on that side side of things. There's some times we let Meta cook and there's sometimes we don't, especially with the AI ads that it tries to make for us. But at the end of the day, you can set a daily minimum, okay? Now, do be careful that you don't set a daily maximum, because a daily maximum will actually restrict it, and we don't really want to restrict Meta from spending on our ads. Now, if you have run this 3-2-2-2 structure before and you have seen ads suck up a bunch of spend and get a terrible return on ad spend, and you for whatever reason are just making like very misleading ads, because that's honestly the only time it happens, then what you can do is you can set a daily maximum. So if you want to set a daily maximum of 50% of your budget, or say for example, if your budget was like $5,000 a day and you don't want to spend more than 500, you can do that. But just keep in mind that at lower spend, so less than $1,000 or even, around like $2,000 a day, you don't really need to worry about this. So we don't set daily maximums. If you want to set minimums, you can. Again, just to be clear, we do not use minimums, but this is where you can get the same effect as ABO with the added benefit of CBO. Okay. And so that is how we structure our campaign. This is what has been absolutely crushing for us. And we have scaled these single campaigns to spending literally over $30,000 a day. So for those of you that don't believe one campaign can scale far, trust me, it 100% can. And this is the main campaign type that we actually run. Now, when it comes to other types of campaigns, I did mention an ASC campaign. And so in some of our accounts, what we will also run is an EAM ASC campaign as well. And I'm just going to make this CBO. And inside of this, rather than using the default sales campaign, what you're actually going to do is you're going to click sales, you're going to click continue, and you're going to change this to Advantage plus shopping campaign. And once you do this, it's just going to build out the Advantage shopping campaign setup. So you can see there are a bunch of presets here. So dynamic creative is off, Advantage placements are on, age is 18 and over. This is all great. Again, we would call this the EAM ASC, US CBO. And inside of here, we don't need to select any categories. We're going to select website only. All of the stuff is going to stay relatively the same. We're going to make sure the attribution setting is again on the default. If you're less than $1,000 or $2,000 a day, if you are a little bit more advanced and you're spending $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a day, we usually recommend removing view through. So for the sake of this example, I'm just going to say remove view through. Again, location inclusions, we're going to be advertising this specifically in the US, and I will be talking about countries shortly. And then you can see down here, languages are going to stay open. This is where your audience is going to be super important to be defined. And then again, you can set your budget to whatever you want to set it at. If you are somebody that is not testing ASCs and say you're spending $1,000 a day, do not go and launch an ASC at $1,000 a day. Just start small and scale up. And then again, anytime you're launching new budgets, always make sure you set them to go live at midnight the next day. You don't want to set an end date. You don't need to do anything like that. And then as you have gotten in and set this up, you're all good to go. So then you're just going to go and start setting up your ads. And so you can again take the post IDs of all of your top creatives, which is what we usually do. We actually don't do any testing in our ASC campaign. So again, the only testing that we actually do is inside this acquisition campaign. That's our testing and scaling campaign. And then the ASC is really just for all of our top ads. So all of our top performing ads will just go inside of this campaign. And that's how we are running it right now. We're almost running it as like an additional champions ad set. So there are times that inside of this campaign, we actually don't run a champions ad set, because the most important thing that I need to mention is that if, say, for example, creative batch number 1 sucks up a bunch of spend and it's crushing it, once you have your winning ad, so say again, this is the winning ad, and you go in and you grab the post ID and you put it in your champions ad set, do not turn off this ad set. Okay. Do not turn off any ad sets in this campaign that are getting spend and hitting KPI. Okay. Because the most important thing for you to know is that, again, golden rule, if something is working, do not touch it. Just leave it. Okay. So you just let this ad set cook and you let it do its thing. If you don't want to do a champions ad set, which some brands don't, I would say with the accounts that we manage, probably half of them have a champions ad set, but some of them actually don't. And so if you don't have a champions ad set and say you just want to run strictly with your creative testing, well, when you find a winning ad from your creative testing, you can take this post ID and use this ASC campaign almost like a champions campaign rather than a champions ad set. Okay. So you can pull your top performing ads and put them inside of the ASC. And we have seen that as a strategy do well. Okay. And now a few final things I want to touch on when it comes to this all-in-one testing and scaling campaign. When it comes to one of the most common questions, which is like, how many creatives can I test? To actually figure out how many creatives or how many tests you can launch in this campaign per week, what you will do is use your budget. Okay. And so if your budget is $100 per day, right? That means your total budget is $100. So my target CPA, let's say, is $20. What I'm going to do to figure out how many ads or how many tests, so I'll just say total tests, I can run inside of that campaign without trying to spread everything too thin, is we're going to take our budget budget, which is $100, and we're going to divide it by our TCPA, which basically just stands for target CPA. And so since $100 divided by $20 is 5, well, that means we can run a total amount of 5 tests, okay? And this again applies to all budgets that are below $1,000 a day. If you are above $1,000 a day, you are fine. You can just test at will. So if your daily budget on this CBO campaign is $1,000, it doesn't matter. Just go, you can test as much as you want. But with that said, if you are less than that, you need to consider this, because what some people will do is they will go inside of here and they'll have a $100 a day budget and they'll launch 30 ad sets, and it's just going to overwhelm the hell out of Facebook. So you need to focus more on intent if that is your strategy, or you just need more budget. So for anybody that's spending less than $1,000 a day, you should just really be testing anywhere from 3 to 5 concepts per week. And again, each concept is going to have 6 ads in here, right? Because we have 3 variations of each concept, and then we have 2 landing pages that we're testing as well. So there's quite a lot of ads that you're going to be launching inside of here if you are doing 3 to 5 concepts a week. And the reason why we say per week, because after 7 days, if you launch an ad set and it does not get spent, okay, let me show you an actual example of this. So for example here, you can see batch number 10 was launched May 7th, okay? And on May 7th, it ran basically for 7 days, okay? And it spent a total of $8. It got 2 clicks and 0 purchases. So this is a great example of a bad ad. And so what did we do? We simply turned it off because it didn't get spent, it didn't perform, and there's no reason for us to leave it on. And so what my point is when you're testing this way, if you launch a batch of creatives and they do not get spent for over 7 days, we definitely recommend testing for at least 7 days. If they do not get spent, just turn them off, okay? If you are one of those people that's like, oh, well, sometimes, it takes a while. People say this and Evolve all the time. It takes way too long for ads that you pick up. I've seen ads take off after 14 days. Then leave them on for 14 days. That's fine. We also have people that just leave ad sets on forever, but Facebook will actually just automatically start turning them off themselves. It's like a thing that they have in their AI. But just know what we do is we test for 7 days. And if it's not getting spend and it's not hitting KPI, then we'll just turn it off. Okay. All right. So as you can see on screen, we're now looking at another account here where, say, for example, you have an ad that starts sucking up a bunch of spend and it's missing your KPI. Well, the easiest thing to do is first thing, go to frequency and check the frequency on the ad. And for example, if you see an ad that has a higher frequency like this one here, it has a 2.38, it's likely going to have a higher return on ad spend just because it is doing more retargeting. And so the first thing to look at is frequency. Is this doing more retargeting? Yes or no? And then the second thing to look at, very simple, is how much spend and how much scale is it at? And the question that you need to ask yourself is, okay, well, we can see these both have pretty low frequencies, and we can see that there's $7,400 being spent on this, $6,300 being spent on this, but the ROAS over here is a 1.78, and then the ROAS up here is a 1.38. Well, if we were to turn off this ad, we would see that there's about $7,400 more worth of budget that will need to get spread out across all of these ads. And so the question is, if we were to turn off this ad and this spend was to go more into this ad and more into this ad, do we think that we would have a better overall performance? And if the answer to that is yes, then you can turn it off. But for most of the time, what you'll notice is that, okay, well, if we were to basically double the budget on this ad, so add another $7,000 on top of this ad, would we be able to keep a 1.5? Probably not, right? And then down here, if we were to add another $7,000 on top of this ad, so again, double the budget, would it be kept at a 1.78? Probably not. And so the main thing that you have to look at is just these theoreticals, more or less, of, okay, this is a judgment call. I am confident that, we have ads that are strong enough, like this one down here is at a, 1.8 and it's not really getting a lot of spend. So I think you could get some more spend and etc. Then if you feel confident that this spend can be divided across the account, then go ahead and turn the ad off. But a lot of the times it's not always obvious, but when you have a new ad that starts sucking up a bunch of spend right away and it's really missing KPI, the first thing that you need to check is how is the overall ROAS? And then from there, if I were to turn this ad off, would all of these other ads be better? And just know that if you do have ads that are getting a lot of spend but are missing KPI, it's mostly because they are misleading. And again, if you do see this happening a lot, what you can actually do is you can set, again, maximum budgets on your creative testing ad sets. But again, we don't usually do this because as long as you're not making misleading ads, you're going to be okay. So those are the two scenarios that happen from this. And with that said, that is everything inside of this campaign. Now, if you're still hanging in there with me, we got a few more things to cover and then we're going to wrap this thing up. But the next thing on here that we will actually run is something called a raw content campaign. And so what we do with a raw content campaign is quite simple. This is mainly for our brands that are now doing above $1,000 or $2,000 per day. And what we will call this is our raw content campaign. And this is just, again, another US CBO. And then inside of here, we are now going to actually launch specifically creative batches only that are just our mass creative volume testing. And so inside of here, we don't actually do the 2 landing page tests. We actually only just do 1 landing page because we are just basically sending it on ads. And so these are just what we would call raw content batches, raw content, or sometimes we call them UGC. So just any kind of product seeding videos that we get back from creators or any type of AI stuff, just stuff that you're not putting a lot of intent into. We will load these in batches again of 3 to 5. Sometimes we'll cut them, meaning that if we get a video that's 90 seconds, we will add some different starting points, or even if we get a video that's 30 seconds, sometimes we add different starting points. But for the most part, this raw content campaign is more for brands that just have tons of volume that they want to test. And inside of this campaign, we don't really abide by this rule. We just kind of send as many creatives in here as possible and we just see what hits. And so this is just where we kind of unload things and we're not really putting a lot of intention. It's just creative that we got that we just want to throw in the account and test. And again, inside of here, we don't run minimum budgets, especially on this, because we're not putting a lot of intent into this. But the only other thing that I want to mention is, again, if you're doing less than $1,000 a day in budget, you don't need to really have a raw content campaign because you probably don't have that much content coming in. But if you do have a lot of content for whatever reason, you can also launch a raw content campaign. And again, this is just great for basically spam testing and just throwing a bunch of ad sets in there and hoping something actually sticks. And now the only other type of campaign that we will run is going to be a whitelisting campaign. So same thing here. What we're actually going to do, and to make it simple, I'm just going to duplicate the acquisition campaign. So we're going to duplicate this, and this will actually just be a whitelisting campaign. And what this whitelisting campaign is basically just an ad set where we will set up our ads, but change the profile to the actual creator. So for example, when you are setting up ads, and again, this is in the whitelisting campaign, so I'm just going to delete this ad set here and show you how we would actually set this up. So again, for the whitelisting ads, rather than using our own page, we would simply use the creators page. And if you don't know what this is, you're like, what the heck is that? I actually have another video coming out on whitelisting. We currently have all of those whitelisting modules inside the Evolve program, but I will be making a new video on it. And there honestly is a lot of value in running whitelisting, specifically because it looks like it's coming from a real person. And so again, if you don't know what this looks like, this is an example of what a whitelisting ad would look like, where again, we have the same UGC creative. So if I go ahead and just upload a image here, you can see that rather than it saying Easy A Media, it actually says this creator's name, which is Carissa, who is awesome. And you can see it comes from her profile now. And so whitelisting is, again, a really great way to kind of camouflage in the feed and make it look very, very organic with the UGC videos that you are testing. And so just so you have context, whenever we find a new UGC video that does really, really well in our raw content campaign, because this is where we mainly test most of our product seeding or, UGC content that we generate with our UGC team, we will then, if it becomes a winning ad that gets spanned and hits KPI, we will then reach out to the creator. We will get whitelisting access, which again, I'll have a video coming on it soon. It's just a whole lot to cover. But inside of this whitelisting campaign, we will have our whitelisting ad. And again, Facebook is just glitching out. It would just be this champions whitelisting ad set with the whitelisted ad in there. And again, this would be the creator's UGC video on their profile. And so those are the 4 types of campaigns that we are currently running. There's honestly nothing more that we test other than this. Now, the first thing that I want you to understand is that when it comes to testing different countries, you need to make sure that you just start with a main acquisition campaign. Okay. You don't need to add all of these other campaigns until you actually find winners in those countries. Most people, we recommend running top 5. And so the top 5 countries are US, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Those are the top 5. With that said, in most of our brands, what we will actually do is we will have one campaign for US. The second campaign that we'll have will be CA, AU, and UK. And what that stands for is Canada, Australia, and UK. And so we will have an acquisition campaign for Canada, Australia, and UK. And then we would also have another campaign, which would be for Europe specifically, as we have found some success with Europe for a few of our brands in countries like Germany and Switzerland Attribution and all that kind of stuff. We love Europe. And so inside of here, we will actually have multiple acquisition campaigns. And this is where it's very important, because what we actually do here is we test creatives inside of this campaign as well. And if I refresh here, you'll see that the creative batch number 1 ad set is inside of this campaign, because we actually test each and every single creative in each country as well. And the reason for that is certain creatives that perform well in the US sometimes don't actually perform well in Canada or Australia or UK or in Europe. And so it's very, very important that we test individual creatives inside of each country as well. And now one thing that's super important is that if you are testing multiple countries, that you do use the breakdown tool to be able to see the country that you are sending to and the country that is performing best, especially if you are bundling them together. Now, we do have brands that Evolve as well that will just run a strict worldwide campaign. And so inside of here, to set up a worldwide campaign, basically what you would do is you would scroll down into the location section and you would literally just type in worldwide and you would select every single country. Now, when you do this, you definitely are sending it a little bit. And what we would recommend is that if you have a US campaign running, you can just exclude the United States. So that way it's just worldwide excluding the United States. Now, some people still just overlap, put the US in there as well. But again, this would be a worldwide CBO. And if this is easier for you and you just want to keep things more consolidated, you can do that as well. But just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to remove this here. But for the sake of this video, again, what we would recommend doing is just starting with the top 5 first, because what can happen when you start running worldwide is you can start to see a lot of really bad countries picking up spend and not really doing anything. So it is important that if you are doing that, again, you go to breakdown, you go to country, and you look at which countries are getting spend but not getting performance, and then you can start to exclude those from your country list. So again, you would go down into the exclusion side of things and you would start to exclude a bunch of different countries. Now, there are some bulk exclusions that you can add as well, but at the end of the day, this is how you can test worldwide if you do want to test worldwide. The most important thing is just keep in mind, we test creatives and landing pages and offers in each and every single acquisition campaign. So that is all of the account structures. And as you get to more scale and say you want to launch ASCs for your Canadian, AU, and UK countries as well, you can do that. And if you want to launch raw content, you can as well. And if you want to launch whitelisting, you can. And that's when campaigns start to get a little bit more complex. There are also strategies where brands will, as you get really big, start to move into different ad accounts. So you'll have a US ad account or a Canadian ad account. There is no right or wrong with that. It's really just preference of how brands choose to set things up. But the brands at the biggest level that we work with usually have dedicated accounts for the US or dedicated accounts for Australia or Canada or wherever their big markets are. But just know, if you are not at that stage, you don't have to get overwhelmed by this. If we just filter by the things that matter, you should honestly only have 2 campaigns. And then as you start to get more sophisticated, maybe you'll add in a raw content campaign where now you have 3 total. And then if you have winning ads coming from the raw content or from your creators, then you will have a whitelisting campaign. And then as you expand further, potentially you have Canada or UK or worldwide running. And then again, you can duplicate those out as well for raw content, ASC, and whatever. I'm not going to do that for the sake of this video because that's a little bit more advanced, but that is everything that we do inside of the ad account. That's how we structure things, and that is how we creative test. Now, when it comes to the scaling side of things, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to filter by selection to clean up the ad account a little bit here. So for scaling, all we're looking for is 48 to 72 hours of above KPI performance. And so for example, if our KPI is a 2x ROAS and we can see that we're getting a 2x ROAS and it's been like that for 48 to 72 hours, well, you can bump by 20%. And a 20% bump would obviously be $40. So you could scale that to 240. Now, say your target KPI is a 2x ROAS and you're getting a 3x or 3.5. You can actually do a more aggressive bump of 50%. So scaling from 200 to 300 would be a 50% bump, again, because 50%. And if you need simple math, this is what I always do. I just use the calculator and I times by this. So I'll do 200 times 1.5. That's 300, right? Because we want to times by 1 because we want to keep our budget. And then we want to add 50%, right? And then if you want to do 20%, it would just be times 1.2. So 240, right? And if you are way above KPI, so say for example, you're spending $300 per day and your target's a 2 and you're getting a 5x, you can actually do some more aggressive campaign bumps, like doubling, but just keep in mind that when you double and as you get to more scale, like for example, we have brands spending $6,000 a day. So it's very rare that we'll double, because obviously a 20% bump here is a pretty significant amount, let alone a double to 12K would be a bit of a send. But the point is we usually scale by 20, 50, or 100% depending on where you're at. Just know that the smaller your budget, usually the more aggressive you can be. Just be prepared that you might disrupt your performance if you scale by more than 50 or 100%. But usually the reason why things do not scale, if you are someone that has scaled and nothing has changed in the account. So say you've had these ads running for, months, and then all of a sudden you just start to see 2 good days of performance. Just know that there hasn't been any reason for why performance should get better other than the market. Whereas, for example, if we launch creative batch number 1 and this thing starts sucking up spend and the ROAS goes from like a 2 overall to like a 5x, and we can tell it's clearly because of this ad, well, in that instance, we're a lot more confident to scale. So sometimes we'll bump by 50 or 100% because we know, like, holy cow, we just hit a crazy winning ad. And that is the reason why performance is better, and not just because it's a good week or it's been a couple of good days. So keep that in mind in scaling. If you do have a reason of why performances have been better, like you got a new offer, a new creative, or a new landing page, then it makes sense to be more aggressive with your scaling. But if it's just been the same ads running and you just magically have better performance, I'd be a little bit more weary about scaling there. And that's what happens to a lot of people, is they're just scaling based off of the market and not based on any new creatives or anything like that. And so that is how we scale. And now for the final part of this video, I'm just going to answer some really common FAQs that we get to hopefully address them before they get asked in the comments down below. And then we'll be able to wrap this video up. All right. So as you can see here, we're actually inside of Evolve, and we're going to look at some of these FAQs, which is the how many creative ad sets can you launch? Again, this is what we say is just rule of thumb is 5 ad sets, but this is actually the new rule that we have. So just keep that in mind. Do we set min and max spends? We obviously went over that. How long do we test creatives for? We went over that as well. How do you know when to leave a winner on? We did cover that as well. Now, the only other question that I'm going to answer, because I know it's probably going to get asked below, is do you test images and videos in the same campaign? Yes, we do. And a lot of the times images are actually our top spending ads, even for brands that are at scale. The reason why your images are not getting spend compared to videos is because the images are just not that good. And it's actually a lot harder to make a really good image ad that converts than it is to make a video. And again, they're both hard, but the point is we test both in the same campaign. We don't segment images and videos. We just test them together. Okay. And so that was one of the biggest FAQs that we get. Another FAQ that we get is like, what is the minimum budget for this? The minimum budget that we'd recommend is at least $100 per day. But hopefully if you're still watching this, you've kind of figured that out. You can start with $50 a day if you want, but most of our brands, we usually recommend 100 if they're just starting out. But we have, brands that are spending $5, $10, $15,000 a day on this exact same structure. And I'm talking more about the 3-2-2-2 structure. And the other campaigns, obviously you just scale budget as performance increases. And then the final thing that we get asked a lot is, how come this hasn't saved my performance? And the truth is because the structure that you use does not save your ad performance. It can support it, like I mentioned in the beginning, but it's not going to turn around your ad account, okay? Unless you're doing something extremely wrong, which if you're watching this video, you've probably watched enough videos to know that you have the right strategy, or generally have the right strategy of optimizing for purchases and making sure that you test creatives, right? But the main thing that's going to drive your performance is number 1, your offer, number 2, your ad, and number 3, the page that you send it to. So now that you actually have the structure and the exact strategy that we use to, as I mentioned, spend over $2 million a month. Okay, I actually showed you. I didn't even just mention it. I showed you that we're spending over $2 million a month. This is exactly what we do. And the thing is this helps us optimize things. But if you actually want to scale and you actually want to grow and you want to spend even $2 million a month on your own brand, you need the assets to do it. Trust me, the days of just launching on Facebook and scaling are long gone. Okay, you have to become a marketer now. And if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, I can tell that you care and that you actually probably want to become better and you're working hard on trying to grow your business. And so that is exactly why we have Evolve. And if you want more strategies outside of just how to run the ads, but actually how to make the ads that help you scale, I would highly recommend that you check out our Evolve program. It is one of the highest level e-commerce networks for brands that are doing over 50 to 100K per month and are looking to scale. Because I'm telling you, with this structure and learning what we teach in Evolve about how to create ads is going to absolutely change your business. And I can say that confidently because we've done that for hundreds of people. And the other thing that I would say is that if you are below 50K per month, I actually just did a brand new training on how to go from 0 to 100K per month. So maybe you're watching this video because you watched that that, and now you know how to launch the ads, or just watching this for the first time on YouTube, I have an entire training that will show you everything that you need to do, from how to create offers with live case studies, with everything that you would possibly need to get to 100K per month. And it's for free. It's Evolve free. It's a second link in the description down below. You can go and check that out, and it will show you how to scale to 100K per month. And the reason why I do all of that for free is because once you get there, then you're going to get stuck again. And that's where I can help you through Evolve and through everything else that we teach. Okay. So I'll leave it there. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of this video. Hopefully this was something that was worth the time. I don't know if anybody's still watching this, because it's obviously been a pretty long video, but I want to thank you for sticking around. And again, if you are interested in any of those programs, I definitely recommend to check them out down below. And then if you happen to be a tech brand that stayed around this long, or you're a brand that is doing some pretty big numbers, spending over 6 figures a month, I would highly recommend to book a call with me down below, and we can do a deep dive on your brand to see if we can actually come and set all this up and help you do it. All right. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this week's video, and I'll see you in the next one.